Welcome to another Coffee with Samso, where we speak with CEOs of companies and ASICs and their strategies and all sorts of startups. Today we do have David Pillinger here from VCEX, which is a venture exchange for unlisted entities. He has been on Coffee with Samso before, and this is a special moment. David, welcome back.
Thanks very much, Noel. Good to be here.
You come with good news. You've just won the ABGM Fintech Awards, which is the Abu Dhabi Global Markets.
Well, we've won the Australian League of that. We were in the top 5 and weren't expecting to win. In fact, we didn't even know that there was an award. We were just nominated by the governments that we're working with, which is Australia and Abu Dhabi. So Austrade, DFAT and the Abu Dhabi Digital Labs, which is basically the DFAT equivalent, have recognised the importance of the VCEX software, where venture capital exchanges can be a bridge of capital to and from the Middle East and the MENA region, Middle East and North Africa region, from Abu Dhabi to Australia, and Australia should be able to get a lot of good partnerships through this and investment in some of the great mining companies and other startups that we have, and now we're going from resources to clearly a country that has a lot of intelligence in software development and creative design and architecture of user journeys for decentralised finance and basically the change that's happening global with the digital terraforming. We're definitely at the leading edge of that change.
So maybe we sort of, a lot of the viewers probably never heard of VCEX and what it can do. Maybe just give us a good rundown. I know we talked about it in the last Coffee with Samso together.
Yes.
But I think I think this is it's the next new thing, right? As we spoke, a lot of transaction happens off market. More than most people would think, right?
Yeah, well, there's actually an interesting statistic on that one, Noel, where in America, 46% of all transactions by value and volume happen off-market, and that statistic is growing to be predicted to be more than on-market trades as companies continue to stay off-market longer. So companies like Canva, for instance, are already up at about $16 billion. A Perth-based company, now based in Sydney. Extremely good technology. I use their software daily on different, quick edits that I need to do. It's extremely convenient, and it's just smart technology that really makes you win the race. I mean, it's like saying, well, we're going to have a running race and someone's got the best spikes and shoes and the other people are barefoot, and you just say, well, okay, it's not quite fair, but that's the thing. You want a commercial advantage. Do you want to print it by hand or use a photocopier? Would you like to walk there or drive in a car? I mean, these technical advantages have been around since Adam was a boy, and they're going to continually advance. And the continual advancement of technology is giving the first adopters of that technology the ability to make more in their chosen industry than any other competitor there. So anyone that uses our software is saving 90% of time and money.
In terms of the use of it, like you're more than just a platform. I mean, there's you got the whole suite, right, to make it work. So you got a company that says, hey, I want to sit on your platform, but you give them all the transactions, your maintenance, the compliance. You are ASIC compliant and things like that.
We're an
right?
ASIC agent, number 43969. So we actually have created, our operating system has a digital assistant that actually keeps you compliant to the rules that are current today in the Australian ecosystem. So we are directly connected to the banks, and we're directly connected to the databases of ASIC as an ASIC agent, as a registry, as a transactor to help process and meet the requirements of the company secretary's need to maintain the registry, and then to help the CFO to maintain the the reconciliation to make sure that the $100,000 that Bob Smith put in is allocated to Bob Smith's share allocation. And so we do that allocation process in an update ASIC and do all of the forms in T plus 60 seconds. So the global average is about T plus 48 hours. We're actually 47 hours and 59 minutes in front of everyone else.
In terms of the awards, I mean, we spoke about this in quite length, obviously. You know, what it has meant a lot of, it has created a lot of awareness for you, a lot more, and you're more sort of in the face of a lot of people now. You're telling me that you're actually going over to Abu Dhabi for the awards, and maybe share with us what that means to VEX.
Well, I mean, it means a lot, and it means a lot in several different ways, but primarily VEX is a source code that is owned by an Australian company called SafeSoft, and VEX Australia had a capital raise that's just about oversubscribed today at a 10-cent amount on the VEX marketplace, which is at vex.com.au, and we promote that to sophisticated investors. So a sophisticated investor can log in, or an exempt investor can. So you have to prove who you are and your entitlement to participate. And once you've done that, the system will allocate you all of the requirements and disclosures and information memorandums and pitch decks, and ultimately transfer the funds to the nominated account on our DeFi contracts, which we call DigiSign. So SafeSoft has invented and owns DigiSign, which is the smartest DeFi contract function in the world that exists today. So its AI is by far more advanced than any type of DocuSign or clever document system. And so all we have to do now is populate that, and the valuations will be evident.
And obviously in the platform, you've got a few companies already.
There are 152 on there as of yesterday. I think about 157 this morning.
Okay. And how the transaction, are people participating more now?
Thousands of people participate on the platforms every day, and they're all predominantly 708s. Some are staff investors that get exemption through the 2012 rules, but ultimately most are sophisticated investors. So there's now thousands of sophisticated, qualified KYC investors, and all the AML is done as well. So all anti-money laundering and know your client is done. So we actually have already started working with brokers around Australia, particularly in Sydney, with Barclay Pearce and Bell Potter, I think, did a bit, and a couple of other companies have been helping sophisticated investors to find these investments, and this does the back office for all the AFSLs. So one example, I suppose, is Infinite Blue Energy. It's a green hydrogen company that is in another success story in Western Australia, and I have had the pleasure of being working with them for most of this year on VEX, and we've gone from 10 cents in the first round to our most recent round of 70 cents, so that's up 700% already. And it's quite comfortable raising money and allowing people to exit should they require that on the low volume financial market operators license that I assisted them to achieve. So now investors can make an agreement with another investor if they'd like to sell in low volume on the VEX platform, and will be done in a secure and live audited update with ASIC. So the second that we make sure that they're 100% qualified, the money is transferred and the 484 is lodged. Even as a public company, by good measure, we lodge it one anyway. We figure, why not give the ASIC all of the information rather than just some? So we do it for every single deal, regardless of whether it's a public or private company.
I mean, it's impressive when we had our discussion that you are able to allow the small guys to, like you said, he bought it at 10 cents, now it's valued at 70. They can actually transact that, whereas before, if, where I've invested in a private company and the valuations finding that buyer is one of the biggest tasks, right?
It's no longer a problem.
Yeah, it's almost like going onto a ComSec or a...
Yep, it's actually quicker and easier than dealing with a online broker. It's actually far simpler and more complete a journey. So it's actually the most sophisticated and fast way of doing this type of transaction in any country in the world, and it's the most compliant too.
You must be getting a lot of interest from many institutions to try and get into this platform, because, as you've said, right, a lot of companies do come from a private space before they went public, and to get to the public space costs money, and hence there must be a lot of money being raised in the private side of it.
They are, and look, we don't have any problem with people doing it piecemeal with 3 or 4 different softwares, because that's what they're currently doing. And when they realise that they can adopt this as one of the first adopters, they will make a lot more money doing what they do. And we have no problem in them taking their time going on the platform, being brokers, because a lot of brokers generally suggest what a company should do in order to raise money. But we do have a C container full of our VEX illuminated signs, which is part of the licensing agreement, where each AFSL that is approved to raise capital on the platform, we give it to AFSLs for free, and we do charge them $1,000 for the establishment cost of their AFSL CAR or AR, which is a corporate authorised representative, and authorised representatives to maintain the privacy of their clients, and to be paid instantly as soon as the money comes through. We would transfer the funds from their trust account to the company and the individuals who introduced the buyer in a private way, where no one can actually contact that buyer without connecting to the broker that introduced them, therefore removing a lot of pain points that brokers are going through right now. So there's a kind of a big uptake in terms of what benefits brokers get, and so the C container is arriving in about 50 days, and that will roll out to about 6,500 AFSLs in Australia, and you'll see a lot of little clouds soon with VEX Exchange written on them all over Australia.
So these are only for the AFSLs holders?
Well, this is because AFSLs are a major part of the capital raising industry, and that's what, you need that to get from... We have different indexes. At the moment, we've got one marketplace, but soon we will have the startup marketplace, which is really for crowdfunded companies and people that so they can go through an AFSL with a crowdfunding license and use VEX. We'll do all their ASIC work, we'll do all of their registry work, we'll do all of their banking work, we'll support the brokers and make sure they're paid all their commissions in time. We'll hold the money through the cooling off period for 5 days and then pay it after the 5 days has happened, and we'll hold that kind of whole process. We'll not hold the money, but we'll hold the transaction to happen after the 5-day cooling off period for a crowdfunded company. And so those are the sort of functions that we are currently offering to brokers, and we'll be dealing with a few startups going to some of the best players like Virtual, for instance, that's very good at crowdfunding. So we're looking forward to working with these AFSLs later in the year, which will really generate a lot of traffic, because it just saves them 90% of their current workload, and problems are solved. So things where they had errors, mistakes, people not getting paid, other customers being contacted that were theirs, etc., removes all of that kind of bickering or errors in compliance. There is no errors, or there are no errors, I should say. There you go. There's an error. There is no errors. Yeah. But there are no errors in the Margo system. Margo it's a blonde avatar that we've picked as a model to communicate the detail of everything you're doing. So every time you go to push a button, there's an avatar that kind of helps you to do that. And that's basically represents the AI that's in the system. And so Margot is with OS, not an OT, and it stands for operating system. And we actually based that on Margot Robbie out of The Wolf of Wall Street, because we thought that was quite funny, and this particular software stops that OTC kind of swindling that you've seen in movies like that. So you have to be compliant. You can't do it any other way. Full disclosure, continuous disclosure, and no one can actually do it. It does all of the work for you, and no one can actually do anything on there without being 100% transparent and upfront and honest.
Well, I can vouch for that because I actually bought some of your shares.
Yeah.
And
as soon as the award came through, you're on the phone saying, which button do I press? And it's easy. And you said, oh yeah, okay. Did it just take my money? And I said, you just told it to take your money.
Yeah. No, it's quite straightforward. It's pretty, I mean, it's, well, not scary, no, but it's very, very transparent.
It's very fast.
Yeah.
Very, very transparent, very fast. Yeah. Like, you can't believe that you're doing something in 60 seconds, which currently takes often months, definitely weeks, and minimum days if it's already all set up. But this will actually set up an IM from scratch in less than 2 hours and pump it out. Yeah. So you don't have to worry about all of the chores. You just raise the money. Spend your time having coffee with Samso or having coffee with your clients and getting the message out there, you know, the brokers, the company directors, and the investors benefit, because ultimately the holy grail is it good for the investor? So it has to be investor-centric. If you want investors to invest and use a platform, you have to make sure it's good for them. But it also has to be AFSL-centric for brokers, and it has to be company-centric for directors and company secretaries. So everyone has to see it as being, it's made and designed around what they need. So every single user journey is designed around what you need, and so that you just use that platform pretty much all day. I mean, we've got, you know, Infinite Blue Energy's CEO, Stephen Gould, is always praising me, and Yolanda Gould, who's also director and head of customer relations and marketing, and I can tell you that they have great feedback from VEX, from all of the hydrogen investors on the platform on VEX IBE. So, you know, the number of inquiries we get for people saying, when can we buy these shares and when's it going to float? And we're saying, well, there are, you know, there is an approval for people to sell shares. It's just that no one wants to sell any. There's hundreds of buyers and no sellers.
In terms of the award, right? I mean, we are trying not to make it into a small piece of furniture for you, but you've got big names that have won this award.
Oh,
before,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, that's the part that gave me a small heart attack, I think. I mean, I've just about passed out. I was watching the awards yesterday afternoon, and I was busy talking to investors, and I was wondering why so many investors were kind of contacting me, because they must have been watching the awards. So I'm trying to watch, because I was one of the top 5, and then at the end they said, you know, you just won, you won, VEX won. And I said, wow, I couldn't believe it. And I was a bit shocked. But the presenter of the award who won last year was Larry Diamond. Now, he started a company called ZipPay, was it? ZipPay. Now, that was a small company when he won the award. Now it's 3.8 billion. And so he's really had high praises for the Hatch Quarter Mena Bridge program. And I've got to say that Hatch Quarter in Melbourne are fantastic if you want to get to the Mena Bridge, Middle East, North Africa market where we are going. I mean, we're in the process of, you know, organising to sell our first licence over there in the US with VEX source code. But we run our campus in Australia, so in Perth, and we intend to keep that in Perth. We're not going to move to Sydney or San Francisco. We will have satellite offices in every country we go, so we will have an office in Abu Dhabi this year, and we'll also have one in the US, and we're also talking about the licence there. But the licence costs in these larger populations are population driven, so we call the Australian VEX market a beta test, if you like, even though it's functioning perfectly and it's not in beta anymore. But if you compare that to the American population, It's about 13 times the size of the Australian population. So, and the MENA area is also about the same size. So they're equivalent to about 100 million starting value for those companies, and we're only selling 5% of each. And our parent company, which is on the VEX platform that's selling shares at the moment to sophisticated investors, SafeSoft, they own 95% of all VEX. So the shareholders of SafeSoft own the global rights of VEX through VEX Australia. So SafeSoft owns 95% of VEX Australia, and VEX Australia owns 95% of every single license that we're producing. So we've just put a big board together that are all very much international and ASIC experienced in-house lawyers and counsel's very good. And I'll announce those names through our VEX system, and I'll probably come back for another update over the course of the next month or so, giving you some more information that I'm not at liberty to talk about at the moment, but you might see a significant series of announcements coming out based on our objectives of global operation with our source code.
So was that Afterpay or ZipPay? ZipPay.
Zip. Zip Larry Diamond. He's done well. I mean, I said to my daughter was watching the show, and she said, "I can't believe we've won." And she works in the office, and she said, "I use ZipPay all the time because you don't pay me enough." She's hilarious. But got to be tough but fair.
Yeah. Oh, look, Dave, it's good. I look, when we first talked about it prior to our first coffee, Samso, it took you a little while for me to click, a bit slow, and then when I clicked, I thought, "No, this is a fantastic platform."
Yeah, it's a lot of information to take on board in our brains. We're talking about a software that is made in a cloud on a keyboard that doesn't exist anywhere but a server, and then you can make duplications of that, and it will function with all of these real things in the world that we have to do, e.g. compliance, banking, money. So things that are in the ether are managed by us, and we manage them really well. Like, we're very good at managing data. For governments, we can reduce their cost by 90% too. So it's not just company-centric and broker-centric and investor-centric, it's actually government-centric. Now that's the big one, because see, governments adopting this could very easily say, well, you're live audited, so we don't need to audit you because you're being audited live. So, and most of the work that's being done is now being done automatically. So you remove bureaucracy and time-wasted points, so that the staff of the more advanced younger countries that have got the money, like Dubai, are a great example for Australia to follow. We've got an old system like America does, and to be fair, it was great in the industrial age, when things were run on steam. But now when they're running on solar-powered hydrogen, the software's kind of a bit of an update, and we need to be that interface between a blockchain environment to the real old world, because blockchain's useless without us. And money in itself is really the small bit about changing from a currency to a blockchain. It's just Australian dollar is a digital thing. I mean, it's already a digital thing. Just go to your bank on your phone. What's the difference, right? Well, there's a code behind that. And then that code has to kind of be delivered and have these functions. And the only way it can function is to connect with the existing industrial world, the clunky world. So we've done that, and we've done it really well. And we've done it in a way which we've got multiple trademarks and patents around what we do, and ultimately the capital that we're raising, which we're about to announce, which I'll come back to you with that announcement and a few other updates for SafeSoft, will really drive the future of advanced learning and strategies and management globally, run by very well-educated and learned people that congregate in Perth in our offices, and work with the offices of VEX in other countries and their front-end staff. but the back end's here. And similar to, say, Singapore, which is a small island of 41 kilometres long, has a lot of business and a lot of cash flow going to it because it was smart to attract it and to develop that. So Australia's got a kind of, they've got some really good programs in Australia. I was in an R&D session on the Hatch Quarter masterclass on R&D and government grants, and I learnt so much about what we're entitled to and how to get their entitlements, that I know that that's going to be easier on the company and easier on the shareholders because the government's willing to chip in if you're doing well. They're really keen on helping, and they'll do it in a way that's actually becoming easier and easier. And tools like VEX are making it so much easier for companies to raise capital, and it's making it a lot easier for people that are in the capital raising world, whether they be venture capitalists, which is why we call it Venture Capital Exchange, or whether it's a broker, or whether it's just a little startup that's going to do it by themselves, and they start with just 2 people or 1 person and say, okay, let's go and do this. I'm going to start a company and attract some investment, and then go to the crowdfunding scene, for instance, and then go to the VC kind of area, and then maybe an IPO. We do the whole end-to-end program. So each index that is on there, we call them indexes because they're a type of company. So an ASIC index is for only ASIC approved companies, which is early startup incentive companies. And that gives investors that are qualified the ability to invest up to $1 million a year and get 20% back on that tax year for those ASIC, ASIC, not ASIC, ASIC approved companies. And if they are an ASIC approved company on the marketplace, on the ASIC index, on VEX, then you get 20% back on that share that you bought before you even sell it or make a loss. And if you make a profit, anywhere between the first 12 months, which is a CGT discount, normally it's 50%. On this one, it's 100%. So from year 1 to year 10, if you sell it in the first 10 years, and after the first 1 year, 0 capital gains tax. So if you get something like a ZipPay or Canva, or, and you buy the shares in that or a SafeSoft, and you buy them as ASIC approved, which incidentally we've qualified for ASIC, and we're just going for a tax ruling on that just to make sure. But we're already qualified on the self-assessment 100-point test. And I talked to the ATO this morning about that too, on the way here. And I can tell you that we're confident that we should be allowed an ASIC approval, and we'll have an ATO ruling on that in the next 56 days to announce as well, which we'll talk about again when I come back. And that's going to be, if you get a good run and you have a company that's growing fast, you can get something that's currently 10 cents selling for dollars and pay 0 tax and get a 20% deduction this financial year off your income tax. So those sort of investments and that type of high net worth investor is investing in an ASIC company in their own name because it's the 0 tax. It's literally the best deduction I've ever seen. And it's another example of how well the Australian government's adapting to change and how they're encouraging business to do it for themselves. They're saying, okay, if you're that good, go and tell people you're that good we'll pass the test of ASIC. And once you're that good, go to VEX and products like that, qualify yourself so that we know you're following our rules, and you're set to go. And if you make that much money, please reinvest it in another ASIC company later on. Even though it's tax-free, the next time you make another profit, you probably want that to be tax-free too. So people will be making a lot of money supporting these startup companies if they get in early.
All right, sounds good. We mean SafeSoft, right?
SafeSoft's the one that you should be buying if you're interested in investing in the VEX software, if you're a qualified investor, as a sophisticated investor, because it has that 100-point self-assessment, would say a checklist ticked, and all the boxes we tick the boxes, and we feel that that's we're entitled to that, and we're currently waiting for an ATO ruling, which personally I think it's up to the investor to take the opportunity, and the risk is theirs that you do or don't have it, but we're actually creating software to actually manage that process and maintain P&L and balance sheets on a month by month to make sure that there's a stop and a start for that ASIC, so that they're not on the index unless they're really entitled to be there. So we're working on that to be a compliance engine for ASIC as well, on the ASIC index, which again we'll be talking about in 2 months. But it's kind of like we're already doing it, but we could do it better. You know, we're already doing all of this, but soon we'll have like the proof's in the pudding. We'll be opening the oven door and everyone will be smelling what we're baking soon.
Hope it smells good though.
Oh, it already does. I've been picking at it a bit, and a few other people have been in there. So you can actually get the first batch or two out of the oven, and I tell you what, delicious.
Yeah. Look, guys, it's a investment that you guys can consider or whatever. But I think the point from Coffee with Samso is reach out to David. Email on the website.
Yeah, vex.com.au.
Yep,
VCEX.
Yep.
Victor Charlie Echo X-ray.
There you go. And David, he tells me he has nothing to do. He will answer all your questions. But reach out to him. Look, do your own research. Absolutely, it sounds like a good thing, but let's face it. The Canva didn't go to the public on a shoestring. They went there. They were well budgeted. So someone funded those kind of guys.
Well, the VCs did, yeah.
Yeah. So this is what David's talking about with VEX. David, thank you. Appreciate giving time, and I love the story, and I think it fits well with what Coffee with Samso wants to do, and just share the journey, share the story.
Yeah, absolutely. And I might just say on a finishing note that we are actually working with Coffee with Samso, to create a marketplace for VEX Media where startup companies will be able to do the capital raising in just as the amounts that they need, because often they're always told by brokers, oh, you're not, you're ready yet, you're a bit early, your valuation's too high, all of these things. So ultimately they get told no, and there's a lot of doors that get closed in your face. Well, we always say yes at VEX, we don't ever say no. So we're like the world's best negotiator, always saying yes, because we have a yes answer for every stage of a company's life, from birth till death. And ultimately, that's the thing that you need. But by people getting in there and growing so that they can survive from a couple of blokes with a shovel like Broken Hill Prospecting to turn into a multinational mining company, that was just a little company with some blokes with shovels looking around and picks looking for minerals, and they found it, and then their company went big. So Broken Hill Prospecting is another great example from the olden days. But it's no different to any other company, and so the idea of using Coffee with Samso to make your company aware and book that advertising through VEX Media is a way of getting exposure to the high net worth people that want to hear your story. So I really am very grateful for the work that you've done with Coffee with Samso and helped so many companies that I've invested in, and I've really found out a lot about the company through that process that you bring about through your platform.
All right, great. Thank you, David. And till within the next month, you're going to be giving us some new news.
Oh, give me 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Till then, thank you. We'll catch up again.
You're welcome. Thank you.